Hello there, students. When searching the internet for information, the first thing we have to be clear about is what we are looking for. We have to know exactly what information we need and then plan the search for it in an effective way. To do this, the cycle that we will always follow in this type of search is to first enter the keywords that we have identified as containing the essential information of what we want to find. Then we will enter it in a search engine. Normally, many results will pop up, lots of different websites that can appear easily. Therefore, the key here is basically to refine those keywords. We will be adding words, removing some, modifying others, summarizing. We will be refining the search, and we will obtain more and more refined results that will allow us to decide if what we are going to enter the next time is to add a word or to remove another, perhaps adding quotation marks to have an exact literal meaning or anything else. The possibilities are endless, and there's not an exact correct answer. What happens then? The thing is that we can spend, depending on the type of search, quite a long time, even hours, until we find the relevant information that actually need. In the beginning, we have to write words down, we will get a lot of sources, and in the end, we have to find an interesting thread to pull from. The most common situation when looking for specific information is that we find a page that sends us to another one, and that one to the next one, and at the end, we find the right source of what we want to read or what we want to find. This process consists in going down the rabbit hole of different reliable sources. It can also happen that in a general term, I find many sources that I find interesting. In that case, normally, as some pages will lead us to others, and others, the most logical thing in these cases is when you have a search that has made you collect enough sources, then it is essential saving them in the browser bookmarks or save them as files, whatever we find more convenient, and it's more comfortable for us to check out later. Afterward, you can go to saved sources with plenty of time and look for all the information, summarize it, and do whatever you need to with the valuable information. On many occasions, we will also need to cross-check results with complementary information that we did not initially think we needed. For example, we can cross-check with the results of an organization's website, or for example, if we think we know a person but we do not exactly remember the last name and we know his activity, but of course with the name and the activity we can really find a lot of people. However, if we know that he or she won a prize in a certain year, then we can build a more and more complex search that will refine the result until we find the exact person we were looking for. It may also happen that we need to search in another language, typically in English because it is the most used on the internet, but in any other language because we are not able to read directly. But well, let's imagine that we were looking for a help forum after a computer product, because of course we suspect that if this product is not very specialized and does not have much impact in the market itself, as most likely a camera of last generation and such, it is possible that there are no forums in Spanish that give information or help to solve problems. Then in that specific scenario, we have to necessarily go and search for forums in English. You would have to write the keywords in the search engine in English. This is very simple and obvious nowadays thanks to the many online translator tools we can find on the net. Even the browser itself has a built-in translation service that allows us to translate the keywords that we have identified into English or any other language we might be looking for. Like if we happen to be looking for information about a Russian theater and it happens to be a bit less popular, in that case the information will quite certainly only be in Russian. The process here would be figuring out the name of the theater, then translating it into Russian or English or whatever language we put it in the search engine, and there we will then be able to find the pages in other languages. Once we have landed on the website we were looking for, it is important to note that the search engines already have a translation service that, although it is not a perfect translation, it makes it for a perfectly understandable translation. This can be very useful, especially when we are talking about a language in which we are not fluent in, and summarizing, that is what can happen to us when we are doing this type of search.